The glass towers of Manhattan shimmered like mirrors that morning, catching the pale winter sun as the city stirred to life. Inside the tallest of them, Hale Industries, silence spread like frost. No one spoke when the elevator chimed. No one breathed when the doors opened. Victoria Hale stepped out, heels tapping like a metronome of power. Her tailored white coat gleamed. Her silver blonde hair was swept into a perfect twist, and her expression was carved from marble. An assistant scrambled to match her stride, holding a folder as if it were a shield. "Morning brief, Ms. Hale," the assistant whispered. Victoria didn't look at her. "I expect numbers, not chatter." Employees ducked behind monitors as she passed. Rumor said she had once fired a man for sneezing during a presentation. Others said she hadn't smiled in years, not since she'd built her empire from the ashes of betrayal. Whether the stories were true or not didn't matter. Fear kept the world in order, and Victoria liked order. By noon, her meetings were done, her patience drained. She dismissed her driver and decided to walk the few blocks to Café Mirabelle, a place she visited often enough that staff recognized the click of her heels before the door even opened. They also recognized the danger. Inside, the cafe smelled of espresso and cinnamon. Cozy chatter filled the air until she entered. Mugs froze halfway to lips. Waiters exchanged nervous glances. The manager darted forward with a strained smile. "Ms. Hale, your usual table." Victoria nodded curtly. "And please, no mistakes this time. The latte last week was lukewarm." The manager swallowed hard. "Of course." As she settled into her corner booth, the world resumed in careful whispers. Across the room, a man and a little girl sat by the window. The man wore a simple gray sweater, sleeves rolled to his forearms, eyes tired but kind. The girl swung her legs, humming softly while coloring on a paper napkin. They looked ordinary, happy, out of place among the fearful tension she carried like a storm cloud. When the waitress approached with Victoria's order, her hands shook. A small splash of coffee trembled over the cup's rim onto the table. Victoria's gaze snapped up. "Is that your idea of service?" Her voice cut like glass. I'm so sorry, Ms. Hale," the waitress stammered, grabbing a napkin. "You're paid to be careful. Perhaps find another profession if you can't manage a cup of coffee." The girl by the window glanced over at the sound. Her father whispered, "Eyes on your drawing, sweetheart." But the child frowned. "Miss Lady shouldn't yell," she murmured. Victoria turned, startled. The man met her gaze. He didn't flinch, didn't look away. There was quiet strength in his calmness. "Excuse me," she said, voice icy. He stood, guiding his daughter's hand to her little backpack. "You heard her, ma'am. She's 6, but she's right. Everyone makes mistakes." The cafe fell into stunned silence. No one ever spoke to Victoria Hale that way. Her lips parted in disbelief. "You're defending incompetence?" "I'm defending decency." His tone was steady, respectful but firm. You can be powerful without being cruel. The words hit harder than she expected. Something in his eyes, steady, patient, made her chest tighten. For the first time in years, she had no retort ready. The manager rushed forward, sweating. "Sir, please, this is Ms. Hale." "I know who she is," the man interrupted gently. "But titles don't excuse bad manners." The little girl tugged at his sleeve. "Daddy, can we go? I don't like it when people are sad." Sad. The word echoed inside Victoria like a secret no one was supposed to know. Jack paid their bill, tucked the drawing into his daughter's coat pocket, and turned to leave. Before they stepped outside, the girl paused, trotted back to Victoria's table, and set the napkin on it. It was a crayon picture. Bright colors, messy lines, a woman in a white coat smiling beside a little girl holding her hand. Victoria stared. "What is this?" "She said you looked lonely," the man replied quietly. "So she drew you happy." Then they left. The cafe exhaled as if released from invisible chains. Victoria sat frozen, the napkin trembling between her fingers. No one had called her lonely before, not to her face. And the worst part was that it was true. She left the cafe without finishing her coffee. Outside, Snowflakes drifted against the skyline. She climbed into a taxi, the drawing still clutched in her hand. "Where to, lady?" the driver asked. Victoria hesitated. For the first time in years, she didn't know. She looked down at the drawing again, at that impossible, childlike version of herself with a smile. "Just drive," she murmured. As the city blurred past, Victoria realized that the man's calm defiance had shaken her far more than any corporate rival ever had. He hadn't looked at her with fear, only truth, and his daughter's innocent eyes had seen through her armor like sunlight through glass. That night, long after her penthouse went dark, she found herself pulling the napkin from her bag and smoothing it flat on her desk. A single drop of water, she told herself it was condensation from her glass, fell on the paper, blurring the crayon lines. Snow had turned to slush by the next morning, but Victoria Hale's mind was still trapped in that café. The little girl's soft voice echoing like an unwanted melody. Miss Lady shouldn't yell. She'd faced boardrooms full of rivals, crushed competitors twice her size, and negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking. Yet a child's words had pierced through armor she didn't even know she still wore. Victoria sat behind her desk at Hale Industries, staring at a report she hadn't read. Her assistant cleared her throat nervously. "Ms. Hale, your 10 a.m. meeting with the developers is—" "Cancel it." "See, cancel?" "But they flew in from Boston." "I said cancel." The assistant nodded and vanished like smoke. Victoria leaned back in her chair and exhaled slowly. She wasn't used to feeling unsettled. It wasn't anger. It wasn't humiliation. It was something else. Something she couldn't label. By noon, she found herself standing in front of Café Mirabelle again, coat buttoned up, scarf perfectly arranged. She told herself it was coincidence. She was just walking, thinking, maybe checking if the coffee quality had improved. Inside, the place was bustling. She caught sight of the same waitress from yesterday, the one she'd snapped at, now smiling and laughing with a table of regulars. For a fleeting moment, guilt tugged at her chest. Then her eyes found him, Jack Reynolds. He stood behind the counter now, wearing an apron and pouring coffee for an elderly woman. His sleeves were rolled up again, hair slightly messy, and there was a quiet ease about him that filled the room. He didn't notice her right away. When he finally looked up, recognition flickered across his face. Not fear, not disdain, just calm acknowledgement. "Good afternoon," he said, voice steady. "Back for your latte?" The other customers froze. Everyone knew who she was. The billionaire. The woman people whispered about. Victoria hesitated before answering. "Yes, the same as yesterday." Jack nodded and turned to the espresso machine. No fuss. No over-the-top apologies. Just focus. Confidence. When he set the cup on the counter, their eyes met again. Victoria began, then stopped herself. She never stumbled over words. "The latte looks better today." Jack's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Glad to hear it." She took a sip. Hot, perfectly balanced. She nodded slightly. Acceptable. A small chuckle escaped him. High praise. The sound caught her off guard, warm and genuine. No one had ever dared to tease her, at least not to her face. She set her cup down. "You work here now?" "Part-time," he said, wiping the counter. "Lost my office job last year when my daughter got sick. Needed something flexible until I find something better." Victoria tilted her head, studying him. "So you traded spreadsheets for coffee?" He shrugged. "It pays the bills. And Lily likes being nearby." At the mention of his daughter's name, something softened in his tone, that quiet love only a parent carried. "Lily," Victoria repeated. "That's her name." Jack nodded. "She's 6. The little artist who drew you that masterpiece." Victoria's lips pressed together. "Yes, the smiling portrait." He raised an eyebrow. "You kept it?" She hesitated. It's unprofessional to discard gifts from children. Jack smirked. "Right, of course." She ignored the sarcasm, but her chest warmed unexpectedly. "Daddy." The bell above the door jingled, and Lily burst inside, pink coat dusted with snowflakes. "Daddy, I finished my drawing at school. She waved a paper at him, then noticed Victoria. Her bright blue eyes widened. Oh, it's the Miss Lady. The entire café went silent again. Victoria froze. Lily's innocent excitement made her feel like she'd been caught sneaking into a place she didn't belong. Jack quickly walked over. Lily, sweetheart, remember what we talked about. It's okay, Victoria said quietly. Hello again, Lily. The little girl smiled, fearless. Did you like my drawing? Victoria cleared her throat. Yes, very much. Good. You didn't look happy before. Daddy says smiles make the world warmer. Victoria glanced at Jack, who looked mildly embarrassed. Wise words. He rubbed the back of his neck. She listens more than I think. I'm right here, Lily protested, hands on her hips. Victoria felt something she hadn't in years, a laugh threatening to escape. She caught it just in time. Would you like a cookie, Lily? Jack asked. The girl nodded eagerly. Chocolate chip, please. Victoria found herself blurting out. Put on my bill. Jack blinked. You don't have to. I insist. Lily gasped. Thank you, Miss Lady. Victoria corrected softly. You can call me Victoria. The girl smiled, chocolate crumbs already on her lips. Okay, Miss Victoria. Jack watched the exchange, a flicker of surprise in his eyes. For the first time, Victoria didn't feel like the ice queen of Midtown. She felt seen. After they finished, Jack helped Lily into her coat. Say, thank you again, sweetheart. Thank you, Miss Victoria, Lily said, hugging her around the waist before her father could stop her. Victoria stiffened at first. She wasn't used to touch, but then something in her heart melted. Slowly, awkwardly, she placed a hand on the little girl's shoulder. You're welcome, Lily. When they left, the cafe seemed quieter, emptier. Victoria looked down at her untouched coffee, then at the crayon picture still tucked in her purse. She wasn't sure what was happening, but she knew one thing for certain. For the first time in a long time, she wanted to come back. The following week, winter loosened its grip on the city, trading icy winds for gentle flurries. Victoria Hale's driver couldn't hide his confusion when she asked to be dropped off, again, at the same little cafe on the corner of 9th Avenue. Café Mirabelle, ma'am, he repeated. That's 3 days in a row. I'm aware, she said, eyes on her phone, pretending to read an email. Truthfully, she wasn't sure why she kept returning. She told herself it was for the coffee, for the quiet atmosphere, for anything except the real reason, Jack Reynolds and his bright-eyed daughter who somehow made her world feel less cold. Inside, the morning rush was gentle, laughter mixing with the hiss of steaming milk. The same waitress she'd once scolded now greeted her with a nervous but genuine smile. Good morning, Ms. Hale. The usual? Yes, Victoria replied. Then, surprised at herself, she added, and please don't rush. Take your time. The waitress blinked, then smiled wider. Of course. Victoria settled near the window, watching the city move. For once, she didn't feel like a queen observing her subjects, just a woman with coffee, trying to remember how to breathe. Jack emerged from the back, carrying a tray of muffins. His apron was dusted with flour, his sleeves rolled up as usual. He spotted her and grinned. You're becoming a regular, he said lightly. I prefer consistency, she replied. Consistency or company? Her head lifted at that. He was teasing her again. The audacity! Yet his tone was gentle, almost playful. I don't do company, Mr. Reynolds. He leaned an elbow on the counter. Maybe that's the problem. She raised a brow. Excuse me? Nothing, he said, holding up his hands. Just that life's easier when you let someone sit at your table once a while. Victoria stared at him, unsure whether to feel offended or intrigued. Before she could decide, Lily bounded out from the kitchen, holding a coloring book. Daddy, I finished my drawing of Miss Victoria's castle. Castle? Victoria echoed. Lily spun the book around. On the page, a crayon palace towered over a stick figure version of Victoria with crown, and next to her, 2 smaller figures, Jack and Lily. I live there too, Lily said proudly. Because you look lonely all by yourself. Jack looked mortified. Lily. Victoria held up a hand. It's all right. She looked at the drawing again, at the childish colors and the little paper hearts floating in the sky. That's very creative. Lily grinned. Daddy says imagination is free. That's the only thing in New York that is, Victoria murmured, earning a soft laugh from Jack. Later that day, Victoria returned to her office, but something had changed. The walls of glass that once felt empowering now seemed cold. The city outside looked vast and unreachable. When her assistant entered to ask about quarterly projections, Victoria interrupted. Cancel my afternoon schedule. I'll handle these remotely. The assistant blinked. All of it? Yes. And Victoria hesitated, then added, order lunch for the team. On me. The woman nearly dropped her tablet. Lunch? From you. Don't make it sound like charity. Call it motivation. For the first time in years, the staff room buzzed with laughter while Victoria stayed in her office, staring at Lily's crayon castle propped on her desk. 2 days later, she returned to Café Mirabelle again, this time without telling her driver. She arrived just as Jack was cleaning tables after the morning rush. He smiled when he saw her. Let me guess, consistency? Maybe curiosity, she admitted. He offered her a seat at the bar instead of her usual booth. Join the mortals for once. She's Saturday, I'll allow it. Jack poured her coffee, then leaned against the counter. You know, when you first came in, everyone here was terrified of you. I noticed. Now they talk about you. Victoria frowned. Talk? Yeah, they say you tipped the dishwasher last time. You told Sarah, he nodded toward the waitress, that her latte art was impressive. That kind of thing sticks. I simply acknowledge competence, she said, hiding a smile behind her cup. Sure, Jack said with a grin. We'll call it that. A comfortable silence settled between them, filled with the clatter of cups and faint music from the radio. For once, Victoria didn't feel the need to fill it with orders or criticism. When Lily ran in after school, she climbed onto a stool beside Victoria without hesitation. Miss Victoria, I brought you something. She held out a tiny paper star. I made it in class. Daddy says you work with stars too, business ones. Victoria blinked, touched despite herself. Thank you, Lily. You can wish on it, Lily whispered seriously. But you can't tell what you wished for or it won't come true. Jack chuckled. She takes wishes very seriously. Victoria looked at the paper star resting in her palm. It was slightly crumpled, but she folded her fingers around it as if it were glass. Maybe I'll make one, she said softly. What do you wish for? Lily asked immediately. Now, if I told you, it wouldn't come true, would it? Lily giggled. You're learning. Jack laughed, shaking his head. She's got you figured out already. Victoria's cheeks warmed. For years, her world had revolved around profit margins and quarterly gains. But now, sitting at a coffee bar with a child's paper star in her hand and a man who looked at her as if she were human, not a headline, she felt something unfamiliar, something she didn't want to lose. When she left, she tucked the star into her purse beside the old napkin drawing. 2 tiny pieces of paper, childish and simple, yet they weighed more than all the contracts in her office combined. Snow fell gently that Saturday morning, dusting the sidewalks of Manhattan like sugar over a pastry. Café Mirabelle glowed warm against the gray streets, the scent of coffee, cinnamon, and safety spilling into the cold. When Victoria Hale stepped inside, for once, no one went silent. The staff smiled nervously but greeted her, and she nodded back without her usual frost. Something about this place and the people in it had begun to melt her edges. She spotted Jack and Lily in their usual corner. Lily was coloring while Jack read a newspaper. They looked so peaceful. It was a kind of peace Victoria hadn't known in years. Not since her own childhood, before ambition replaced innocence. She ordered her coffee and approached them. Good morning, she said. Lily's face lit up. Miss Victoria, you came again. Jack looked up, surprised but smiling. We were starting to think you were part of the furniture. I've been busy, she replied, slipping into the seat opposite them. Business never sleeps. Maybe it should. Jack said softly. It might wake up happier. Victoria rolled her eyes, but a smile tugged at her lips. Lily pushed a small paper forward. I made you something. Victoria blinked. Another drawing? Yes, but this one's special. The little girl turned the paper around. It showed Victoria again. Only this time she was smiling and holding hand with Lily. Around them, hearts and flowers bloomed under a bright sun. Victoria stared at it, speechless. You drew me again. Because you looked sad last week, Lily said honestly. But Daddy says when people smile, it means their hearts are talking. Victoria's throat tightened unexpectedly. Your daddy sounds very wise. Jack chuckled. That's generous. Mostly, I'm just trying not to mess up. Lily leaned closer to Victoria and whispered. He says he's still learning to be brave. Victoria smiled faintly. Aren't we all? She gently placed a drawing in her bag, right beside the paper star and a napkin, the little treasure she didn't quite understand why she kept. Thank you, Lily, she said sincerely. It's beautiful. The girl's face glowed. You're welcome, Miss Victoria. Jack's eyes softened at the sight. You know, he said, I've seen you come in here a lot, but this is the first time I've seen you look relaxed. She blinked. Relaxed? He nodded. You look like someone who's not fighting the whole world. Victoria frowned, unsure how to respond. I don't fight the world. I run a company. Same thing, isn't it? She almost laughed. You make it sound simple. Sometimes simple is what people forget to be. There was something in his voice, quiet but grounded, that silenced every sharp reply she could think of. When she left the cafe that day, the city felt different, lighter somehow. She didn't notice the cold air biting her cheeks or the rush of traffic around her. She only felt a quiet ache in her chest, the good kind, the kind that reminded her she was still capable of feeling. That evening, she sat in her penthouse, scrolling through her company's email inbox when she saw an invitation from a partner charity organization. Hale Foundation Annual Children's Gala, a fundraiser for underprivileged schools, hosted by her own company. She planned to attend alone, as always, but an idea took root before she could stop it. She picked up her phone and hesitated. She had never done this before. Her thumb hovered over the number she'd saved under Jack Reynolds' café. When he answered, his voice was surprised but warm. Ms. Hale? Victoria, she corrected automatically. Listen, there's an event my company hosts every year, a charity gala for children. I thought your daughter might enjoy it. There was silence for a second. You're inviting us? Yes. Consider it repayment. For the cookie. He chuckled softly. That was a $2 cookie, Victoria. I'm thorough. On the other end, she could hear Lily's laughter in the background. Jack sighed, still smiling. You really don't have to. I know, she said, her tone softening. But I want to. All right, he said finally. We'll come. Lily will be thrilled. Good, she replied, and for once she didn't hang up right away. And Jack. Yes. Thank you for reminding me what kindness looks like. He hesitated, then said gently, It's been there all along, Victoria. Maybe you just forgot how to use it. When she hung up, her heart was unsteady. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not with pity, not with fear, but with quiet belief. The night of the gala arrived like a dream. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and soft jazz. Guests in gowns and tuxedos filled the space, sipping champagne, exchanging polite smiles. And yet, when Victoria entered, her eyes searched for only two people. Jack, looking impossibly handsome in a simple black suit, and Lily, twirling in a pale blue dress, her eyes wide with wonder. The child spotted Victoria first. Miss Victoria, she squealed, running up to hug her. You look like a princess. Victoria's laugh was soft and real. You look like one, too. Jack approached, slightly awkward in the crowd. You didn't warn me it'd be this fancy. You clean up well, she said, for a part-time barista. He grinned. You don't look half bad yourself for an ice queen. Her mouth fell open, then she laughed, actually laughed, shocking herself. People turned to look. The staff, the investors, everyone who knew her as a woman of steel, now saw her smiling beside a man and a child. For once, she didn't care. That night, when Lily asked to dance, Victoria took her tiny hand and joined her. Jack watched from nearby, his smile tender. It wasn't just the lights or the music. It was the way Victoria laughed with a little girl, as if she had rediscovered a part of herself she'd buried long ago. The woman who once ruled through fear now glowed with something far greater, warmth. The ballroom shimmered like a dream. Gold chandeliers glittered overhead. Strings hummed soft music, and laughter floated in waves. But Victoria wasn't focused on the elite crowd, the press, or even the awards waiting on the stage. Her eyes found Jack and Lily across the room, standing by the chocolate fountain. Lily was giggling, trying to dip a strawberry without losing it, while Jack leaned down, steadying her tiny hand with a patience Victoria had never seen in her boardroom. It was such a simple, human thing, and it made her heart ache in a way she didn't expect. "Miss Hale," her assistant whispered beside her, "the investors are waiting for your introduction." Victoria blinked back to reality. "Right." She stepped onto the stage, her heels clicking softly on marble, the crowd instantly quieting. She'd given countless speeches before, always poised, confident, precise. But this time, when she looked at the audience, her gaze caught on Lily's bright little face. Something shifted. "Good evening," Victoria began. "Tonight, we gather to celebrate opportunity and the future we can build together for children who deserve more." Her voice was steady, but her heart wasn't. "When I founded the Hale Foundation, I thought success was measured by numbers, profits, partners, projects. But tonight, I realize success isn't about what we earn. It's about who we help rise." The crowd nodded politely, but Jack's small smile from the corner of the room gave her courage. She continued, softer now. "Sometimes it takes the smallest hands to remind us of the biggest truths." And when Lily waved shyly, a ripple of gentle laughter filled the room. Victoria smiled back. "Thank you all for being here, for believing in change, in hope, and in kindness." Applause followed, not the forced, professional kind she was used to, but warm, genuine clapping that filled her chest with something real. After the speech, guests came to congratulate her, but her attention never drifted far from Jack and Lily. When she finally escaped the crowd, she found them sitting at a quiet corner table. "You were amazing," Jack said. "Didn't expect the rude billionaire to talk about kindness." Victoria arched an eyebrow. "You saw that headline too, huh?" He grinned. "Hard to miss when it's on every business blog." "Well," she said, half smiling, "maybe I've had better teachers lately." Lily perked up. "Daddy says you're learning to be nice." "Lily," Jack whispered, embarrassed, but Victoria only laughed. "He's right. I'm a work in progress." They talked for a while, about nothing and everything. Jack told her about the cafe's struggle to stay open during rent hikes, and Victoria found herself offering suggestions, not as a CEO, but as someone who genuinely cared. Then, as the music shifted to a slow melody, Lily tugged on her father's hand. "Daddy, dance with me?" He chuckled. "You sure you want to dance with me? I've got 2 left feet." Victoria smiled. "I'll take one of those dances if she's too busy." Jack looked at her, truly looked at her. The chandeliers reflected in his eyes like 1,000 little truths. "You want to dance?" "I haven't in years," she admitted quietly. "Maybe it's time I did." He stood and extended his hand. "Then let's fix that." The world blurred into soft light and music. His hand was warm against hers, his steps careful, protective. Victoria followed, her usual confidence replaced with something vulnerable, something beautiful. For the first time, she wasn't leading or controlling. She was present. "You're full of surprises," Jack murmured. "So are you," she said softly. "Most men would have run the first time I snapped." He chuckled. "I've been a single dad for 6 years. You think a few sharp words scare me?" That made her laugh, a genuine, bright sound that turned a few heads. As the music slowed, they stood close enough for Victoria to feel his heart beat through his shirt. She didn't move away. Neither did he. "Victoria." Jack began, but his voice faded when Lily appeared between them, tugging their hands. "You both have to dance with me." Victoria knelt, smiling at the little girl. "Then let's make a trio." And so they danced, the billionaire, the barista, and the child who'd unknowingly stitched their hearts together. Guests turned to watch the sight, whispering in disbelief. The woman who'd been called cold, unreachable, and impossible was now laughing freely, spinning a little girl in circles. Jack looked at them. Victoria's soft smile, Lily's joy, and felt something he hadn't felt in years. Home. Later that night, when the gala ended and guests drifted out, Jack and Lily stood with Victoria by the grand staircase. "Thank you for inviting us," Jack said. "It meant more than you know." Victoria hesitated. "You and Lily. You reminded me that life isn't meant to be managed like a business. It's meant to be lived." He smiled gently. "You're doing just fine at that now." Lily yawned, holding her father's hand. "Miss Victoria, will we see you again?" Victoria bent down, brushing a strand of hair from Lily's face. "You can count on it." "Promise?" "Promise." As they left, Victoria watched them disappear into the snowy night, Jack carrying Lily, her head resting on his shoulder. For the first time in years, the billionaire felt something she couldn't name. Not power, not success, something far rarer. Hope. The morning after the gala, the city buzzed with headlines. Victoria Hale seen laughing and dancing with single dad at charity gala. Ice Queen melts. Who was the mystery man who softened New York's toughest CEO? Victoria scrolled through the articles at her office, half amused, half annoyed. Her assistant, Emma, hovered nervously nearby. They've been calling all morning Ms. Hale. Reporters, investors. Even your PR team says the public loves this new image. Victoria sighed. "So the city finally likes me because I smiled once." "Well," Emma said carefully, "you smile with feeling. People notice." Victoria set her phone down, trying to suppress the warmth spreading in her chest. "What about Jack? Has anyone—" Emma nodded. "He's been approached by a few local journalists, but he declined every interview. That surprised her and worried her." "Declined?" "Yes. Said he didn't want attention, especially not for his daughter." Victoria stared out the tall windows overlooking the skyline. For the first time in her career, she didn't care about the press or the business spin. She just wanted to make sure they were okay. That afternoon, she walked into Café Mirabelle without her usual entourage. Heads turned, whispers spread. Jack looked up from behind the counter, wiping his hands. "Well, it isn't the star of the morning news." "I had no idea people still read tabloids," she said dryly. He smirked. "You underestimate how interesting you are when you dance." Victoria rolled her eyes, but she couldn't help smiling. "You handled it well." "Emma said you turned down interviews." Jack shrugged. "Didn't seem right. I don't want Lily growing up thinking attention is the same thing as worth." Her gaze softened. "You're a good father." "Trying to be." He hesitated, then added quietly, "Are you okay? The press can be brutal." She nodded. "I've faced worse. But this feels different." "How so?" "It's not about business," she admitted. "It's about me, and I'm not used to being seen." Jack leaned on the counter, studying her. "Maybe it's time you let people see the real you." "The real me?" she asked with a faint laugh. "I'm not sure I even know who that is anymore." He didn't smile. "I think you do. You just buried her under too many expectations." His words lingered like music she didn't want to stop hearing. Lily ran up then, holding a cookie wrapped in a napkin. "Miss Victoria, I saved this for you." Victoria knelt, accepting it with a smile. "You're too sweet, Lily. Daddy said you might be sad because people are saying things on the computer." Her voice was so earnest, so full of concern, that Victoria felt her eyes sting. "I'll be fine, dear. Don't worry." Lily hugged her tightly, the kind of innocent hug that asked for nothing in return. And in that small moment, surrounded by the smell of coffee and vanilla, Victoria realized something. She didn't feel alone anymore. A few days later, her world changed again. At the office, her head of public relations barged in, breathless. "Ms. Hale, you need to see this." He held up a tablet. On the screen was a video clip from a gala, Victoria dancing with Lily and Jack. Someone had filmed it, and it had gone viral overnight. The billionaire who found her smile. Millions of views, thousands of comments, messages of admiration, even gratitude. "I never thought I'd say this," her PR manager said, "but the world loves you right now. They're calling you an inspiration." Victoria blinked at the screen. "For what?" "Dancing with a child." "For being human," he said simply. She dismissed him politely, then sat back in her chair, staring at the skyline. It was strange. For years, she'd built her empire on control, the image, the tone, the power. But the one thing that made people truly see her was the moment she let go. That evening, she found herself at the café again. Jack was cleaning up, the shop nearly empty. When he saw her, he smiled. "You're here late." "I needed a quiet place to think," she said. "You could buy quiet if you wanted," he teased gently. She gave him a look, not the kind that matters. They sat together at one of the back tables, a soft silence between them. The hum of the espresso machine and the faint city noise outside felt almost comforting. "Jack," she began, "what if I told you that since the gala, everything's changed? In a bad way?" "In a real way," she admitted. "People see me differently, but I'm scared I won't live up to it." He studied her carefully. "You don't have to live up to anything. Just be honest. Be you." Her voice softened. "You make it sound easy." He smiled faintly. "It's not, but it's worth it." They shared a quiet look, the kind that said more than either dared to speak aloud. Then, from behind the counter, Lily's sleepy voice piped up. "Daddy, can we go home now?" Jack stood, glancing at Victoria. "See you tomorrow?" Victoria nodded, then surprised herself by saying, "Actually dinner. Tomorrow night. My treat. Both of you." Jack blinked, taken aback. "You're inviting us out?" "Unless you're afraid the tabloids might follow." He chuckled. "You forget. I stood my ground once. I can do it again." Her lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "Good. It's a date." He froze, then laughed softly. "You mean a dinner?" "Of course," she said quickly, though her heart fluttered at his smile. As he left, carrying Lily in his arms, Victoria stood by the window, watching them disappear into the streetlight's glow. And for the first time in years, she wasn't thinking about business, money, or reputation. She was thinking about them. The evening air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of taxis and city chatter. Victoria Hale had chosen a quiet bistro tucked in a cobblestone corner, elegant, but unpretentious, far from the bright lights of Manhattan's elite. She arrived early, giving herself time to relax in a way she hadn't in years. No assistants, no cameras, just her. When Jack and Lily arrived, she was waiting at the entrance. Lily's eyes lit up, and Jack's smile was warm, easy, human. "You picked the perfect place," he said as he helped Lily into a chair. "Not too fancy, not too stiff." "I thought it would be nice to step out of our usual worlds for a bit," Victoria replied, smoothing the napkin on her lap. Lily leaned across the table. "Miss Victoria, I get to sit next to you." Victoria laughed, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Then I'll guard your side with my life." Jack shook his head, smiling. "I think she'll be fine. She's braver than most grown-ups I know." Dinner was slow and relaxed. Conversation flowed naturally. No business, no hierarchy, just shared stories and laughter. Lily talked about her school projects, drawing elaborate imaginary worlds on napkins, while Victoria listened, fascinated. For the first time, she wasn't CEO, the feared billionaire, the headline. She was simply a woman enjoying the company of a man and his child. Jack spoke softly about the small joys of parenting, bedtime stories, rainy day adventures, Lily's innocent observations of life. Victoria found herself opening up too, speaking of her lonely childhood, the pressure to succeed, the fear of being used. Jack didn't judge. He didn't flinch. He only listened. "You've built an empire," he said quietly. but it seems to me the hardest thing is letting someone in. Victoria nodded, eyes glimmering. Exactly. He reached across the table, resting his hand near hers. Sometimes, letting someone see your heart is scarier than facing a boardroom, but it's worth it. Her chest tightened. She hadn't realized how much she'd wanted someone to say that. After dinner, Lily tugged at their hands. Can we walk home together? Snow makes everything magical. Jack laughed. Lead the way, little one. Victoria joined them outside. Snowflakes danced around them, catching in Victoria's hair, dusting Jack's coat. Lily skipped ahead, leaving tiny footprints behind. They reached a quiet park bench. Lily collapsed into her father's lap, smiling up at him. Victoria sat beside them, shoulders brushing against Jack's. You know, she said softly, I never thought a small act, a child's drawing, a few words, could change everything. Jack's gaze met hers. You've always been capable of that change, Victoria. You just didn't know it. I think I'm learning now, she said, her voice almost a whisper. Jack smiled, leaning closer. Good, because I think we have a lot more to learn from each other. Victoria's heart skipped. She had built walls for years, high, sturdy, unyielding. Yet here, in the snow with a man and child who had taught her kindness, patience, and laughter, those walls felt unnecessary. Jack, she began. Yes. Her lips curved into a tentative, genuine smile. I think I'd like to see where this goes. He reached out, brushing a lock of snow from her shoulder. Me too. Lily giggled. You two are funny grown-ups. Victoria laughed, and for the first time in years, it was a full, unguarded laugh. Jack laughed too. Their hands found each other naturally, fingers intertwining. Snow swirled around them like a delicate curtain, separating the moment from the rest of the world. For the first time, Victoria didn't feel alone. And in the quiet warmth of that snowy New York evening, the billionaire and the single father discovered something more valuable than wealth or power. They found connection, trust, and the kind of love that didn't need fireworks or fanfare, just hearts willing to open, slowly, gently, and completely. Spring arrived slowly in New York, softening the harsh edges of winter with gentle warmth and hints of green sprouting along the sidewalks. Café Mirabelle hummed with life, the scent of freshly baked pastries mingling with coffee, laughter spilling over the chatter of regulars. Victoria Hale stepped inside, a soft smile playing on her lips. Gone were the stiff shoulders and marble expressions. Today, she walked as if she belonged not just to the towering glass empire she commanded, but to this little corner of the world, where kindness and laughter held sway over fear and ambition. Jack and Lily were already there. Lily waved excitedly, her little curls bouncing as she dashed over. Miss Victoria, she exclaimed, throwing herself into a warm hug. Victoria laughed, scooping the girl up into her arms. Hello, Lily. Did you bring another masterpiece? Lily nodded vigorously, waving a crayon drawing in the air. Jack chuckled, resting a hand on her shoulder. Victoria glanced at him, and he smiled, that steady, grounding smile that had become her anchor. Good morning, she said softly. Morning, Jack replied. For a moment, the three of them sat together at a small table near the window. Victoria poured hot chocolate into Lily's cup, careful not to spill, and Jack quietly handed her a plate of croissants. It was a simple scene, ordinary, warm, real. But to Victoria, it was more precious than any boardroom victory or stock market gain. Lily leaned over her, whispering, Daddy says you're not scary anymore. Victoria laughed, brushing a tiny hand from her daughter's shoulder. I'm working on it. Jack smiled. See? Progress. The morning flowed into afternoon. Victoria watched Jack and Lily interact, the way his eyes softened when he spoke to her, the patience he carried like a shield around her. And somewhere deep inside, she realized that she no longer feared letting people in. She didn't have to rule the world with iron alone. There was joy in surrendering, in trusting, in simply being human. When a shy customer came to the counter asking for a recommendation, Victoria offered a friendly suggestion, her first casual interaction with a stranger in years. Jack caught her eye and gave a small nod, silently approving. Victoria's heart swelled with a simple happiness she hadn't known she was missing. As the sun streamed to the cafe windows, Victoria looked at the napkin drawing Lily had made weeks ago, now carefully framed on her desk at home. She thought of the paper star tucked in her bag, small, imperfect, yet priceless reminders that kindness could melt walls, that innocence could pierce armor, and that love, quiet, patient, enduring, was worth more than all the riches in the world. Jack reached across the table, taking her hand. "Victoria," he said gently, "thank you for letting us into your life." She squeezed his hand in return. "Thank you for showing me what life outside these walls can feel like." Lily beamed, waving the crayon drawing proudly. "See? We make each other happy." Victoria laughed, leaning back as the little girl wriggled free to play. "Yes, you do." And for the first time in years, Victoria Hale didn't feel alone, feared, or untouchable. She felt loved, grounded, and part of something real. The cafe, the city, the snow that had melted into spring. It didn't matter. What mattered was here, at this small wooden table, with a man who had stood firm and a child who had taught her to smile again. She wasn't just Victoria Hale, the billionaire. She was Victoria Hale, the friend, the guardian, the woman who had rediscovered joy. And she had a feeling that the best chapters of her life were just beginning. As Jack, Lily, and Victoria shared a quiet laugh over spilled chocolate, Victoria knew one undeniable truth. Life was sweeter when shared with the right people. And for them, every cup of coffee, every laugh, every small act of kindness had created a world worth living in together. The city outside roared and rushed on, indifferent to their small bubble of warmth. But inside, laughter rang louder than any headline, love stronger than any fortune, and hope, bright, shining, infinite, filled the air. For Victoria, Jack, and Lily, every day had become a new regular in the story of their lives, one where fear had no place, only hearts brave enough to open, love enough to endure, and lives intertwined by moments both small and extraordinary. And that was more than enough.